Okay, so we did it, soldiers. We made it through the harsh, cold, football-less abyss known as the offseason and have made it back for the next NFL season. So it's time to go through all the NFL teams to see what they might look like this upcoming year. And honestly, this video is just going to come back to haunt me in a few years, like the one 2 years ago when everyone is still dunking on me for Geno Smith. So can't wait to get everything wrong again.
I'm gonna do it!
God, I can't express how much I hate the Cowboys this year. On paper, this team can't be better than last season alone. There's just no way that happens, I don't think. And even when they had their best chance at doing something last year, it was a historic collapse. So, I don't know, in my eyes, there's no way the locker room is a positive atmosphere anymore. And with Dak Prescott's contract situation still looming, and I know they figured out CeeDee's thing, but the offense is going to get worse, with also huge losses like Tyron Smith, but the defense is also probably not going to be as strong as last year too, with the losses of Stephon Gilmore as well as Leighton Vander Esch, and I don't know. I'm not sure if Mike McCarthy is the main problem here, but the offense can't just be let's pass it to CeeDee Lamb every single play, right? There's no way that's the plan. But I don't know, maybe it is the plan and it might work. However, I see this team looking like maybe a week 4 implosion. It could happen. A CeeDee Lamb high ankle sprain would just ruin everything, and this should probably be the last straw for the Dak Prescott era. Not saying that they won't re-sign him, but I don't know, man. This team isn't going anywhere. And we all saw that last year, right? We know the Cowboys are just fucked.
Why don't you give the chicken to these people? Let's go on up and have some sauce.
Now, I don't really know what to do with the Browns. They're a weird team because the defense, I feel like it can't really get that much better, if better at all, right? I mean, they were literally the best defense in the entire NFL last year and one of the best of the modern era, and they got a near 50-piece dropped on them by a rookie and just got absolutely dusted. So I don't know. The Deshaun Watson being back to his original Texans form thing is probably just out the window at this point, and with Nick Chubb maybe never being the same player again, sadly, this offense could actually be near unwatchable. With Jerome Ford and Jerry Jeudy carrying the offense some days, I mean, this offense has scary potential to look like the Jets from last year. It's not even that I think the Browns are going to be bad, because I don't. They still have a ton of talent. Obviously, they have Myles Garrett still, so how bad can you really be? But I just am really high on the rest of the AFC North, and the Browns just don't have the players to compete with some of the other teams in their division, in my opinion. But on the subject of teams that people think are just going to win the Super Bowl, the Houston Texans have gotten more hype than maybe any team I've ever seen ever. And I know I've basically just been labeled as the Texans hater, but hear me out. This is the darkest timeline for the Houston Texans. They could be sitting at like 4-4 and could be towards the bottom of the league in pass expectancy per game like they were last season, and maybe Diggs would start throwing fits on the sideline and all that stuff. Chemistry issues come about, and despite having the most talented wide receiver room in football, Joe Mixon could be getting like 22 carries for 64 yards a game, and people start calling for D'Amico Ryans' head. And even if that timeline somehow gets realized, the Texans are still probably going to be a playoff team. But also at the same time, that's kind of what makes the Texans so interesting to me, because Houston could also completely change their philosophy from last year and unleash CJ Stroud, and he could easily win the MVP. So, I mean, I really just don't know what's going to happen. However, I think if I were to lean more towards one option over the other, I think the first scenario is just a little bit more likely. But the defense is also just damn near as questionable to me. I don't know what to think of them. They have so much potential, but that's just it. Potential. Honestly, Danielle Hunter could make an all-pro team, or he could just be fine. Derek Stingley could establish himself as a top 5 corner, or he could be inconsistent as hell and get hurt. I don't know with the Texans, man. I have no idea. They also have a really tough schedule, too, so take that for what it's worth. And also, I think the AFC South has potential to be one of the best divisions in football.
Wide right!
And if we're talking about question marks, the Buffalo Bills are the poster child for that, because we have no idea what this team is going to look like. This is basically just going to be Josh Allen win games for the most part and try to outscore the other team, because the defense is going to be unrecognizable. No more Micah Hyde or Jordan Poyer for the first time since 1997, and hopefully Rasul Douglas and Greg Rousseau and other guys should be able to just, hold things down every now and then, but it definitely could be a problem, especially if guys like Matt Milano don't return to their full form. But on offense, it's also just going to be so weird seeing maybe a run-first offense where James Cook is the feature instead of Stephon Diggs on offense, with other guys like Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, and Dalton Kincaid helping getting Allen out sometimes, but it's just, I don't know. This team does not have the ceiling that the Chiefs have, and it could happen again. I could see another Bills loss to the Chiefs in the playoffs. Now that I'm thinking about it, that's what I'm going to go with. I think it'd be hilarious. Again. And again.
I'll start with Matt. I'd kiss him.
In staying on that topic of teams that I just have no idea about because of injuries, the Miami Dolphins are another example of just the Buffalo Bills, but in a little bit better of a scenario, because maybe Jalen Phillips and other guys can return back to full form, but maybe not, because they also lost a bunch of pieces like Andrew Van Ginkel and one Javon Holland injury, and the defense might just collapse. But they still do have Mike McDaniel, so, anything's possible. And with Tua and Tyreek Hill still having a connection, and Jalen Waddle and Raheem Mostert are also pretty fast, this team could score 35 points a game, but if the defense is giving up 40, they're not going to win games. I expect a little bit of regression from the Dolphins this season, because remember last year there was a point in time where they were damn near the best team in the league, but they should still be able to sneak into the wild card.
I just can't do it. I can't take this shit no more, man.
Boy, the writing is on the wall for a 49ers collapse. I don't think it'll happen because they're still the most talented roster in the league on paper, and pretty much all the players know that this is pretty much their last chance with this roster to win a ring. Brock Purdy's going to have to get paid soon, and although they did figure out Brandon Ayuk's situation, Trent Williams is still unpaid, and he might not even suit up come week 1, and he's damn near their most important offensive player outside of McCaffrey. So yes, they are going to be amazing this year. Everyone knows that. The question is just, can Kyle Shanahan overcome his demons? He's had like 5 chances, so it's not looking good at this point. But, a Super Bowl or NFC Championship appearance isn't bad.
Taking out the second mortgage on the house to gamble was worth it.
The New Orleans Saints are a team that I want to like. I really want to say that they are going in the right direction. I love what they did in the coaching department, bringing in Clint Kubiak to at least revive this dead animal of an offense that was once led by Pete Carmichael, but I don't know, man. I know it's not going to feel like passing a kidney stone every time I have to watch this team anymore, but let's think about this for a second, because with this talent on the roster already, I'm thinking the best possible case scenario is a wild card appearance. But is that even considered a success if they go a little bit further than that? Because there's no way this team's winning a Super Bowl. And I know they have a ton of weapons like Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave, who are pretty underrated, honestly, but it's not enough. It's really not. At the end of the day, we're not going to look back on the Derek Carr era in New Orleans as a success unless they make the NFC Championship game or something, and they just don't have the firepower. So they tried to do with what they had, but Derek Carr's contract is really, really not aging well. The Seattle Seahawks are maybe the most volatile team in the NFL. I think between them and the Cardinals, one of those teams is going to have a breakout season and absolutely pop off, challenging the 49ers for the divisional crown, and the other is going to completely collapse. And honestly, I think the Seahawks are going to be pretty damn good this year. They're obviously a huge unknown on offense with a new head coach and OC, and Pete Carroll not being there for the first time in so long. So not only is the on-the-field play going to look completely different, but the culture is probably going to change entirely too. However, the defense is still the main concern here. Let's all just assume that Geno Smith is going to still be okay at best, if not good, which is still so hard for me to accept. But if guys like Tariq Woolen can go back to his all-pro form that he could have had his rookie year, then this defense has potential to be scary good. And that's also not even counting guys like Devin Witherspoon, who honestly could make a run for Defensive Player of the Year. So Seahawks are going to be good. Just how good, though, remains to be seen. Unless Geno Smith implodes, because it has to happen at some point. There's no way Geno Smith is just this good all of a sudden. My brain still can't accept that. Which means I'm not going to be positive about the Cardinals. I'm rooting for Kyler Murray. I really am, but God, he looked so bad last year. He was terrible. And yes, a lot of that was probably rust, but he's going to have chances to not be bad now that he has Marvin Harrison Jr., who's obviously just not going to be a bust. There's no way. And he also still has Trey McBride and James Conner. So he has no excuse besides his O-line, which is just going to be terrible again. So, the defense is obviously going to be awful too. Everyone's expecting that. But as long as Kyler can make improvements and the Cardinals can put up a fight in more than half their games this year, which would be a massive improvement from last season, Cardinals fans are probably going to consider it a win. Okay, I know, I'm probably biased. To be fair, though, I'm usually biased against the Raiders. I don't really give us credit very often, but I think we could be good this year. I think we could be good. I know, crazy, crazy words coming out of my mouth, but our defense honestly has potential to be a top 5 unit. I've never even seen an above average defense in my entire life's existence as a Raiders fan, but this year I think it's going to happen. Max Crosby, Nate Hobbs, Christian Wilkins, Trevon Moehrig, and Jack Jones, who's apparently just the best corner in the league, could all come together alongside a brand new culture, which, remember, last year actually had us playing some good football to the point where our players actually cared. I think it could happen. I think we could make a run at the number 2 seed in the AFC West because, Chargers are damn near tanking and the Broncos are barely an NFL team anymore, so it should be free. It should be ours for the taking. The problem is obviously the offense, though. Luke Getsy is our offensive coordinator now, who is atrocious, but still a massive upgrade over Josh McDaniels. And I mean, how bad can an offense really be with Devontae Adams on it, right? Gardner Minshew was doing a great job last year just peppering Michael Pittman with targets, so I could see a lot of games where nobody else really has a catch besides Devontae Adams, and we might win by like 5. So, I'm not like overly hyped about this year or anything, because obviously we're not winning a Super Bowl, but, it's going to be nice to watch a team, and a team that doesn't just hate their coach.
It may not mean nothing to you, but understand nothing was done for me.
I'm going against God on this one, but the New York Jets, I think, are going to be a very good football team. Last year, all the questions were, is the offense going to be this much improved with Aaron Rodgers, and how good is the defense really? And what we learned is that the Jets have the best defense in the NFL, outside of maybe Cleveland. They have so much talent, it's ridiculous. Quinnen Williams, Sauce Gardner, Quincy Williams, Jermaine Johnson, DJ Reed, it's just ridiculous. So having the best defense in the league, an improved O-line, one of the best running backs in the league, one of the best wide receivers in the league, and all Aaron Rodgers has to do is go out there and not be exactly Zach Wilson, and the Jets should just be playoff locks. Add that on to a constantly collapsing AFC East division, and the Jets might have a, hear me out here, I can't believe I'm about to say this, the Jets have a shot at the number 1 seed in the AFC. They might have a better team than the Chiefs on paper. And just imagine for a second if Aaron Rodgers is actually somewhat like he was in 2021. What if Aaron Rodgers is really good? The Jets would be unstoppable. Now, I'm not going to go that far, though. I think Rodgers will be fine. He'll be somewhere around the 15th, 16th best quarterback in the league. And this is the Jets still, so they're probably just going to collapse in the playoffs or by the end of the season. But, yeah, Jets should be pretty good this year. Now, this is the team that I think is going to shock people. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be really good this year. They have a perfect ground and pound formula going with Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren, and the defense will be just amazing. If everyone can stay healthy, they're going to be awesome. They have the best linebacker core in the league in Patrick Queen, the traitor, TJ Watt, and Alex Highsmith, and that's not even talking about guys like Minkah Fitzpatrick and Joey Porter, who are just, they're great too. This team has everything that they need to be the Pittsburgh Steelers of old, and Mike Tomlin is also still there, so, what else should I even say? The question obviously is then just going to go back to, is the quarterback play going to be good enough? And I think it is. Russell Wilson will be fine for a while, and if you watched my other video about a shorter preview of NFL teams, then you know that I think Justin Fields has a higher ceiling than Russell Wilson, and come later on in the year, I could easily see them making the switch to Justin Fields over Russell Wilson if he gets, a little injured or something, because as we've seen from training camp, the quarterback battle was actually a lot closer than we thought it would be. So this team's going to be mean, they're going to be ugly, they're going to hit you hard, and they're going to run the ball 50 times a game, and you know what? That's Pittsburgh Steelers football. I expect nothing less.
Help me! Help!
I am so unhappy to have Jim Harbaugh back in my life, but, it was only a matter of time. I'm still so salty he's not our coach, but it is what it is. Justin Herbert is still trapped in purgatory, and everything around him is just absolutely terrible, but I don't think the Chargers are going to be unwatchably bad. I could see them being like the Arizona Cardinals from last year, to where... That's probably the worst thing I could ever say, but I could see them beating a team like how the Cardinals beat the Cowboys last year in a shocking upset and then kind of just fall back down to earth, because, I don't know, this team is just untalented and bad. Hopefully Derwin James can revive his career, because God, did he have a terrible season last year that nobody really talks about, but yeah, it's the Chargers, it's Jim Harbaugh, they're rebuilding, we'll see how it goes. Man, I feel like I'm a lot more worried about the Ravens than I should be. Something about that offensive line just scares me. And if I had to pick one offensive coordinator to be fired by week 14 in a shocking move, I think I would pick Todd Monken. I don't know, dude. It's so weird because the team has the pieces, but how many times is Derrick Henry just going to be shoved behind a terrible offensive line and told to just make magic work and then do it? Because the dude's 31. He can't do this forever, right? And I know the defense is going to be able to carry, and obviously the Ravens are going to be a good team. Let's get that out of the way. It's just, are they going to be able to compete with the Chiefs? Because the Chiefs are the benchmark for every single team in the AFC, and I don't know if they can, especially last year, with the defense being as good as they were, especially against the Chiefs, and they still couldn't do it. So, O-line's getting worse. Ronnie Stanley's probably just going to retire after this season, and I don't know. I don't see a world where they win the Super Bowl this season. Hottest take of the entire video here. You are not ready for it. The Cincinnati Bengals are my Super Bowl champions. This is a pick that is probably going to bite me in the ass, but I mean, I just feel like all the pieces are there. Joe Burrow is a very big question mark, and he may honestly never be healthy again, but I'm going to choose to bet that Hall of Fame talent can recover, and the same thing kind of goes for Jamar Chase, where right now we're still not even sure if he's going to play for the Bengals this season, but with how special this team could be, I'm not only expecting the Bengals to pay Jamar Chase eventually, but I'm expecting him to come back and be amazing, because this offense has the potential to be so explosive. They have speed everywhere, and a revamped O-line to protect Burrow to the best of their abilities, which, you know, their O-line isn't amazing, but it should be good enough. And combine that with some upgrades at defense, and I think the Bengals can do it. I think they have enough to rekindle this rivalry with the Chiefs and even defeat them. So I'm expecting big things from you, Bengals. Do not disappoint me, please.
Hey! No! Stop! Just calm down!
Up there with the Houston Texans, the Green Bay Packers are one of the most hyped up teams in the league, and why shouldn't they be, right? Their wide receiver room is loaded. Josh Jacobs is a perfect fourth quarter sledgehammer finisher, and trust me, he's still got some juice left in the tank. Our O-line was just shit. But let's not ignore the fact that Jordan Love was actually not very good for a long time last year. And people shit on me now for suggesting that the Packers should go for Caleb Williams, but there was a hot minute there where that wasn't completely delusional. So just maybe let's see it for a whole year from Jordan Love before we crown him as Rodgers' successor. But I could also see a world where Jordan Love goes for 300 yards a game for a while and just absolutely takes over. I just don't see it happening this season. And the bigger question for me is, how is this Packers defense going to look under Jeff Halfway? Because contrarily to the Packers offense, the defense isn't actually that young, and they have a lot of aging dudes who just might not be in their primes anymore. So we'll see with the Packers. I don't think they're going to make the Super Bowl. I don't think they're better than the Lions or maybe even the Bears, but, you know, they're still good, and they should be in wild card contention at the very least. I love the way the Indianapolis Colts are built. All eyes are obviously going to go to the offense, but the defense has some f***ing dogs too. Let's get that out of the way. EJ Speed, Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner, Zaire Franklin, Kenny Moore. I mean, that alone should instill fear in every single offense they go against, but that's not even the best part about this team, because the untapped potential on the offensive side of the ball is ridiculous. I mean, we all know what Anthony Richardson could become, because besides his accuracy issues that he showed sometimes last season, he also has the ability to be like a Brett Favre, Cam Newton hybrid. And paired with Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman and an elite offensive line, I mean, come on. Do you see why I believe in this team so much? But although I am a big believer in the Colts, I think they're going to win the division, I also am a big believer in needing to get punched in the mouth first in the playoffs before you really are able to make a Super Bowl run. So I think the Colts are going to win the division and then lose immediately in the playoffs. So as long as Anthony Richardson can stay healthy, I don't see why that can't happen.
Are you going to the fucking cupcake factory?
This season, we are going to learn from the Philadelphia Eagles if coaching truly was the only issue after that cluster last season. I mean, I know Matt Patricia was on the staff, but it couldn't just be his fault, right? However, they did fix almost all of their coaching issues with Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore, as well as massive acquisitions such as Saquon Barkley. So can they move past the dysfunction of last season is the main question. They damn near have as much talent as the 49ers, and if they don't just cruise control towards the playoffs, Nick Sirianni has to be gone. He just has to be. This is one of the most talented rosters we have ever seen in NFL history. And remember last year, they got fucked by Baker Mayfield. So, it'll also be interesting to see if the tush push is just dead now that Taylor Swift's boyfriend's brother is retired. So, that'll be cool.
Big herd drop.
And speaking of just don't collapse and you should be fine, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Because last year, their collapse was completely overshadowed by the Eagles. Nobody talks about it, despite it just being hilarious what happened to them. And I don't know, man. Do I take the bait again? Last year, I thought Trevor Lawrence could have won the MVP, and the Jaguars could have been the 1 seed in the AFC, which they actually were for a little bit of time, but it all fell apart. And I don't know, what the Jaguars look like to me is they're kind of trying to build a mold similar to Aaron Rodgers' Packers teams in the mid-2010s, except there is one massive difference, and that is the offensive line, which is the main reason why it all fell apart last year, so I don't know why that wasn't their number one priority. If you can't protect Trevor Lawrence, who is the franchise now that he got paid, like it or not, you ain't winning shit. I like the weapons he has, though, but it all comes back to, is this enough to be better than Indianapolis and the Texans, who are both in your division and are bringing the house? And the answer to that question, for me at least, is I don't think so. This is not a bad team, but the way the AFC is shaping out, I just don't think the Jaguars have enough pieces to make it all come together.
Oh, he caught it off the ricochet!
I really thought the Lions could have made the Super Bowl last year. I thought they had all the pieces. They had the great culture going for them. Dan Campbell's mad all the time and passionate, but it didn't work out. And the reason why I don't think it worked out is I just said it out loud. I said the words, the Detroit Lions are in the Super Bowl, and it just, something felt wrong. So, something felt disturbed in the peace of the universe, and I don't know. I can't shake that feeling, because maybe it's going to happen again. Maybe the Detroit Lions are going to have another perfect team and just have a theatrical meltdown in the playoffs. But what they need to do this season is use their rage as fuel, because I'm so worried that they just have all the right pieces, but it seems almost too perfect. I smell an injury or something. Maybe to an important guy who doesn't get a ton of credit like Frank Ragnow or Kirby Joseph. But also, on another hand, this is probably the most predictable team in football. Like Tampa Bay, they're just running it back and betting on development of their youth, which is a great idea, honestly. You can't really blame them. The Detroit Lions are an amazing team on paper and a playoff lock, and I'm just hoping we get a Lions-49ers rematch in the playoffs, because I think that would just be amazing. Lions-Bengals Super Bowl incoming.
Lips are pink. Your girl love them.
I'm all in. I'm ready for Caleb Williams to break all of CJ Stroud's records. I think the Chicago Bears are going to be so similar to Houston last year, and I can easily see them snatching a playoff spot away from a team like Tampa Bay or even the Green Bay Packers in the last few weeks of the season. That would be a crazy transfer of ownership, but I don't know. I think the Chicago Bears have been scarily competent recently, and even in the past few years as well. DJ Moore and Rome Odunze could be the next best wide receiver duo in football, and I don't know, to me they kind of just give off Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley vibes, which is huge praise, I know, but I really do like this roster as a whole as well. The defense is going to be hit and miss week in and week out, but they do have the greatest player in NFL history and Andrew Billings on it, so they should be fine. I think they're going to be a fringe wildcard team at best. And for all the question marks that we've gone over, the Dolphins, the Bills, the Seahawks, all those teams that I'm really not sure on, the Atlanta Falcons are the biggest question mark in the entire NFL, and it's not even close. Kirk Cousins, new coaching staff, new everything. Kyle Pitts is basically a new tight end, probably. Drake London and Bijan also were not even used at all. So this is a whole new team. Nobody has any idea what they're going to be, but on paper, they should be amazing. They have elite weapons on offense, elite weapons on defense, but once again, just like the Lions, something just scares me about Kirk Cousins. I don't know what it is, but it just doesn't feel right for Kirk Cousins to lead like the best team in the NFC, but there's still so much potential with this team. They have a top 5 O-line, a top 5 running back, and yeah, what I'm trying to say is Michael Penix is going to win the MVP. So the Rams are going to be good, I think. The offense should be explosive again because Sean McVay, and the defense should only be a little bit worse than it was last season. Yes, obviously losing Aaron Donald is a black hole in the middle of the defense, but also Ernest Jones leaving really hurts too. And the only thing they really did was plug up the secondary with two amazing talents, but two completely injury-prone players in Darius Williams and Tre'Davious White. So I wouldn't be shocked if those two were either the best or worst cornerback duo in football. It's just, this team is so volatile. I can see them challenging the 49ers for the top spot in the division, or one Stafford injury could end their season in Week 12, and next thing you know, Carson Wentz is your quarterback. So I don't think the Rams are going to be as good as a lot of people are thinking. I think the defense is going to be terrible, and honestly, I think this is going to be the last year of the Matthew Stafford era in Los Angeles.
What you doing there, Bill? Satellite dish trouble?
No, I'm just up here to kill myself.
Do I even really have to talk about the Broncos? I'm not even gonna put any highlights on. You don't care. This is just gonna be a Bo Nix, see how good he is this season, and it's kind of it. This team is terrible. Nobody cares. Moving on. Another really weird team to project is the Tennessee Titans, because for the first time in damn near my entire life, the Titans probably won't go 9-7 or 9-8 at this point, because there's no more Derrick Henry, there's no more Mike Vrabel to just spam HB dive, but they're going to have a whole new identity. I just don't think they're ready to make that final jump just yet. Once again, especially in a division where it's eat or be eaten, L'Jarius Sneed and Chidobe Awuzie are a good start, but I just don't think it's enough to overcome a potentially really, really bad offense, because I am not a believer in Will Levis just yet, and I don't know. I think this might be like the best 5-win team of all time, but that's not saying much. Well, you got your quarterback of the future. He has elite weapons all around him, like Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison when he isn't Raidering, a defense improved by a ton of new signings, as well as the quarterback whisperer at coach. So, safe to say, I'm ready for an amazing season from your franchise first-round quarterback in Sam Darnold. It's going to be great. So earlier in the offseason, I was saying the New England Patriots might be the biggest sleeper team in the league, because I believed, Jacoby Brissett was quietly one of the most efficient quarterbacks in football last year in a very tiny sample size, and when you throw in guys like Pop Douglas and Jalen Polk, I think the Patriots could have been pretty good. That was until they started blowing up the team, and now Matthew Judon's gone, and maybe there's some culture issues, so I don't know. I think this is just going to be a team that's going to be skating through the season until Drake May comes in, and maybe they win a few games and get a little bit of a positivity boost, but I think that's really it. This is just a year to see if Drake May is the guy, if Christian Gonzalez can recover from his injury, and that's all there is to it. There's no way this team makes the playoffs, man. There's just no chance. Unless the NFC is historically weak, I don't see a world where they do it. Yes, this is a Brian Daboll team, so they will somebody at some point, but the talent on this roster is gone. This has to be Daniel Jones' last season in New York. It just has to be. He's not an NFL quarterback. When will they figure that out? But I don't know. The Giants are going to be so boring this year. They're going to be unwatchable. So, in other words, I'm really hyped for Giants Saints in early December. It's going to be so much fun.
I want to take a pic.
I liked the Frankie Louvu signing. I think. I don't know. This team's garbage. They signed Austin Eckler and traded Jahan Dotson, so this is just a Jaden Daniels tryout campaign to see if he's a good quarterback, which I think he's going to be great. I really like him as a prospect, and, he's got some weapons on offense and the worst defense in the entire NFL, so it should be a great place for a young developing quarterback to get thrown into the fire. But hey, at least Dan Schneider's gone. Just keep remembering that. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the most boring team to project this season. We know exactly what they're going to look like. They hit their ceiling last year. There's no way they're going past that unless Baker Mayfield unlocks his potential all of a sudden in year number 7. And it wasn't even enough last season. It wasn't even close to enough. The 49ers and Lions are just purely better at everything. And yes, their only losses are Shaq Barrett and Devin White, but they didn't replace them with really anybody. I guess they got Randy Gregory now, who is still in the NFL. It's news to me, but yeah, the Bucs just don't have enough firepower. Nothing you can do about it.
I want that son of a bitch dead. I want him dead.
Oh, Carolina. Well, you can't be worse, right? I don't even hate the signing of Dave Cannell as their new head coach, but I don't know. I guess they won't be absolutely atrocious. I could see them winning 5 games, or if we're feeling real frisky, 6. Maybe 6 games, but the playoffs seem impossible. There's a reason why I made a whole ass documentary on them for just this last season. They were that bad. So, I don't know. Just try to make it through the year. It won't be as bad as last season, but you're not going to be as good as the Falcons. Hate to break it to you. So, that was all the predictions. I have the Cincinnati Bengals beating the Detroit Lions in the Super Bowl, and I'm prepared to be 100% right on everything I just said. So, if you like this video, then subscribe, because I make a lot of videos on the channel just like this one. And if you did like this video, then watch this video I did just a couple days ago on the New York Jets and their entire legacy of misery. It's pretty good, trust me. And thanks to all my patrons for pledging $1. It truly does mean a lot. But anyways, until next time.